The 10th chapter of Luke is one of several apostolic treatises on mission that comes from the pen of St. Luke the evangelist, both in the gospel that bears his name and in the Acts of the Apostles. Here Jesus is sending out the 70 to the places where he himself expects to go. And there is much to be done, he says, and there are not enough workers. So he sends them out ahead of himself, 2 by 2, to every town and village. And the mission, he reminds them, is going to be costly. It's going to be troublesome at points. And they'd probably do better if they traveled lightly. Some days their mission is going to feel like Jesus sent them as helpless lambs into the midst of hungry wolves. On lots of days, they will have to make do with what they have rather than what they want. And there will be those days when the mission is going to be rejected. And those who are sent will be able to do nothing but shake the dust off their feet and keep moving. And yet, if you listen to the under voice of Luke, the day is coming and now is. The reign of God, the kingdom is coming anyway. With us or without us, because of us or in spite of us. Why? Because we have the promise of God that the divine vision will ultimately prevail. For you see, the way St. Luke sees it, in Jesus Christ, a new age has been born. A new age is dawned. A new vision of reality comes into focus. And the wisdom of this world has been outflanked by the resurrection. The old world of death and destruction is giving way before our eyes to a new world of unending life and unquenchable hope. Behold, the days are coming. People, get ready. The train is coming. So, my brother Keith, and the good people who are the Church of the Holy Spirit, that's about all there is to it. Well, you see, God's got a vision. God's got a people. God's got a mission. And I see no evidence to suggest that God is not still working the vision. And I see all the evidence necessary to believe that God is still tearing down walls that separate and is bridging the gaps between us in the death and resurrection of Jesus. And I believe it is patently clear that God's mission is going on around us. That God's mission is going on for us. Perhaps even at moments, God's mission is going on through us. The point is, friends, that it's all God's. The vision is God's. The people are God's. The mission is God's. I recall with delight a lecture I heard a couple of years ago by Professor Ian Douglas. Dr. Douglas is a missiologist at our seminary in Boston. That means he thinks a lot and writes a lot and talks a lot and teaches a lot about mission. About global mission, about domestic mission, about parish mission, about personal mission. Well, after his lecture, we had sort of an open forum question and answer period. And someone stood and said to him, "Professor, how would you define the church's mission?" Dr. Douglas responded by simply saying, "The church has no mission." Next question. Well, he in fact went on and answered a few other questions, but a few minutes later, somebody else came back to that and pressed him a little bit and said, "Professor, what is it that you mean when you say the church has no mission?" "Right," he said, "precisely. The church has no mission. You're catching on." The church has no mission. God does. And then he went on to say, let's quit wasting our time trying to figure out the church's mission. Who really cares? The question, he says, is this: does God's mission have a church? God's vision. God has a vision, dear friends. I hope you can see. I hope you can feel. God has a people. I hope you can claim it. God has a mission. And on this day, when we start all over again, well, the question is, does God's mission have a church?